It must be grief.
Is this Sever? Hundreds of billions of damage. Somebody said the old Griefy boy hit 1.2 trillion on a single cast on a single target in PTR. Surely he was using bugs. No, he wasn't. I mean, I wasn't. What is up? It is your boy Grief. And you've got a big old helping on your plate today. A chunky portion, as it were. And I imagine that it looks something like a bathtub full of cold cream corn. Doesn't sound too good, but it is. And you gotta get through it. And the best part is we're gonna do it together. Season 7 finally here. With it come the powers of Witchcraft. Now, does this mean we're gonna be running around flying on brooms and getting into cottagecore? No, we're not. What we will be doing is slicing through demons like hot butter with a scythe of a spectral shadow that no one has ever seen the likes of in their lives. Reaping Lotus still with us. 400% damage. We're going to utilize it. It's a bit early for the build. Understandably, it's day 1. But I wanted to put something out to give you a little insight into what's coming so you can make a favorable decision on what build you'd like to run for Season 7. Season 7. My advice would be to run Twisting Blades Sever. Let me tell you why. Before I begin, I want to just give you a quick disclaimer. And I know that sounds a bit like you're sitting at Smiling Grief's auto sales, used auto sales, but in all honesty, it's necessary. If you've come here looking for something that you're going to plug into a Paragon board or your skill tree, and suddenly you're just going to whip it on out in public like you see me doing in the videos, you're just going to push pit 110, 115, you're going crazy, you're at 120. You're not doing that. Alright? Everything takes quite a bit of work, and this build is no exception to that. If you're willing to put in the work, and the grind, and the trading, and the gold, and the materials, this build is for you. It'll become your best friend. You can look up bracelets, those little hearts that stick together. Get the 3-way one. I'd like some too. The guide is in the description, and my advice to you would be, since this is an early season build, keep checking back on that guide. Make sure you're getting the most up-to-date information. Keep an eye on the YouTube channel. Subscribe if you haven't. Comment down below if you like cream corn. Alright, so let's get into it. First of all, why Sever? Well, honestly, because it shreds. It is absolutely insane. It can rip through all content in the game easily. It's good solo. It's good in groups. It's good at everything. It is not the strongest build in the game. It does not have the highest damage output, but it is damn close. And I believe as the season progresses, Sever will prove itself to be one of the highest pit-pushing Necro builds. Definitely in the top 5 of all the builds that will be out. You have my word on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up the skill tree completely naked. You freak. With the character wearing nothing. So you can just see the points with no additives from the gear. Get some help. So I am going to show you the skill tree with no gear on. That way you can see just the bare points you'll be putting in the skill tree. And then we'll go ahead and look at it with the gear on and see how that changes things. And we'll talk about the reasons we're making those changes. Alright, so what I want to do now is I want to show you the build in the Mobalytics guide. The reason is that I don't have a lot of footage of the gear, of the Paragon, of the skill tree from the PTR. I do have some footage from the PTR of the skill tree with all of the points into it that you're going to have from your gear and masterworking and everything. So we can look at that after we check out the skill tree. Also in the mobilitics guide, I am including a leveling path on straight twisting Blades Sever, not the leveling guide, just so that if you plan to just jump right into this leveling, which can be done, I did it last season, you can see what order I would take those nodes in when you're going through the skill tree. So first and foremost, we're going to look at the skill tree here. Obviously, you have to put your 2 basic points in to unlock your core section. Once you get that core section unlocked, you're going to put 5 points into Sever first and foremost. Obviously, that is our main attack skill. You're going to get a lot more than that from your gear, but you're going to put 5 points there. You're going to grab Enhanced Sever, so we're doing a little more damage there, and slowing enemies. And then here, this is important, I wasn't grabbing this at first, Paranormal Sever, because I didn't think the fear was going to be great, especially in pits. I didn't want enemies running away from me, but we'll look at later on in the skill tree why this helps a lot, and also, too, it was awesome. I'm just going to tell you that straight up. You're going to like it a lot. It is a cool change. It didn't sound great, but it is really cool. So you're also grabbing your Blight. You're only putting 1 point into this. We just want the skill enhanced, obviously, and then Supernatural for the 20% damage multiplier for enemies standing in the circle of Blight. Now, one thing that's important here, someone pointed out to me, and I don't know if this will ring true when the season actually begins, but this was Supernatural Blight and this was Paranormal Blight. The 2 were changed. So just make sure that you're actually grabbing Supernatural if these 2 positions are changed in the game. I'm not sure if that's the case. We're ending up with 2 into huge flesh. This is not safe for work. We're ending up with 2 into hewed flesh. Our lucky hit chance is high. This is providing enough corpses to give us everything we need, so we don't really need to get any more in there. Also, we're going to get 1 more from the Shroud of False Death. I'm not going to mention that for every passive. We can look and see those when the Shroud is on, and I have the footage of that for the PTR. Imperfectly Balanced, you're putting 3 points here. Moving on here to your macabre skills, you have your Blood Mist, you have Enhanced, and this is a change that you're going to notice. So instead of running Ghastly Blood Mist like we did last season so that we could get that corpse that could start our pulls, we are going to forego that for Dreadful Blood Mist. The reason being is Dreadful Blood Mist in the past was only giving us some crit strike chance. Now it's adding a 10% multiplier on the damage. Not picking my nose, it itches. And I never pick my nose. And we want as much damage as we can possibly get, so we're taking that. Necrotic Fortitude, we like this barrier. We're going to take this. We're going to put 2 points into that. This is a big one. We're going to take a look at this once we get the skill tree with all of our gear on. 3 points into Titan's Fall. Over to Corpse Explosion. If you noticed my magic there, yes, I had to make a little change. Corpse Explosion, we are taking Enhanced, and then we are taking Blighted. Same reason as last season. Blighted will not steal your Zan hit. When you proc that, you are going to be doing dot damage with that, so it will not crit, it will not overpower, so you don't have to worry about that stealing your Zan hit from you and wasting a potentially fatal hit to the elites in the pit. On the magic that I've done here, I mistakenly had this in the Grim Harvest. Luckily, I caught that. Fueled by Death, you're putting 3 there. Moving down here to our curse skills, we have Death's Embrace, 3 points there, giving you a little more damage reduction and a little more damage. And then you have your Amplified Damage. We are running 3 points into Amplified Damage. On our curse itself, yes, we are getting our curse from the Rune Word, Tam Wat, but we want to make sure that we're getting the extra here, the additives. So the passive here, Abhorrent Decrepify, is taking care of our cooldowns for us. As you've probably seen last season in the pit, it is almost instantaneous cooldown resets. And then through Tam Wat in itself, we are getting Horrid Decrepify, and enemies are dying once they hit 10% life or lower. This is huge in the pit because it applies to elites. Obviously, does not apply to bosses. That would be insane. Now, on the Coalesced Blood, you're going to notice that we're taking this. This is one of the huge changes this season. So from here it is doing more damage when you're healthy, giving you that damage no matter what type of skill you're using. In the past, it had to be a blood skill. So Coalesce Blood becomes a very valuable tool for almost every Sever. Every build is a Sever build. Almost every Necro build. And we're throwing it in here. We're going to mess around with how many points end up in that. I have not decided if that's going to make it onto the amulet or if we're going to run Imperfectly Balanced. I think it might be Coalesce Blood. Moving down here, Reaper's Pursuit, another big change this season. So instead of just giving you more movement speed, which we really weren't that crazy about, it wasn't nuts, we'll take it for free. But in this case, we're putting all 3 points here because now it is giving you a 6% movement and 6% damage. And that is for every darkness skill on your bar. For us, that is Corpse Explosion, that is Sever, that is Blight, and I think that is Soul Rift. So that is 4 on the bar for us. We are still grabbing 3 into Gloom, same as last season. We are still grabbing 3 into Terror. We will end up with some Crippling Darkness from our gear. I can't remember if I mentioned the 3 into Necrotic Carapace. This helps keep us fortified. We are running 3 into Finality, nice little damage multiplier when we're in the pit and we're constantly throwing up Soul Rift. And just nice all around if you're not in the pit throwing up Soul Rift. When you throw up Soul Rift, you will get a 15% multiplier. Memento Mori getting our sacrifice bonuses up, and Standalone giving us more damage reduction. We have no active minions, so that's great. Obviously, we're running Soul Rift. We're running Prime Soul Rift, Supreme Soul Rift. This is the same as last season. No big change for us. There could be a change here with potions if we were running a certain setup and we wanted more potions all over the place, but we've actually switched over on Subo to drop potions for us when we need them, and that's working out pretty well. So we don't need to put more than 1 rank into Soul Rift. And then perhaps the biggest change of the season, we are running Rathma's Vigor. Now, if you've played this game for many seasons, you know that that's... Why would we do that? All you need to know here is that they've changed the key passive so that now it grants 120% multiplier to overpower damage. This actually helps us since we're replacing the Blood Moon Breaches, which we'll talk about the gear in a moment. And even though the first part of it isn't really helping us, seemingly, it actually is. What I've noticed, and I will verify this as I run through the pit, when you are healthy for 15 seconds and you get that guaranteed overpower, and also when you grab the blood orbs and that drives down the time. Now, we're grabbing blood orbs all the time pretty much in pit, so there's constant blood orb flow. And what I noticed happening was my blood mist would no longer steal my Zan hit. What I mean by that is if I had my Zan bar full and my next Sever cast was about to be a Zan hit, but I found myself in a crowd control situation where I may die, I hit the get out of jail free button, I go into Blood Mist, sometimes Blood Mist would actually steal the Zan hit. Now, because of this, what I noticed happening is Blood Mist takes that guaranteed overpower and doesn't touch the Zan. The Zan stays on the bar, so I come out of the Blood Mist and my first Sever out of the gate smacks him with a Zan hit, doing a lot of damage. So that actually, if that is working the way that I think it was, that is actually really cool, and that helps us a lot, believe it or not. So that is the skill tree. Like I said, I will show you now some footage of the PTR skill tree and how the gear fleshes out with all of the passive that you're going to get from your Shroud of Death and your Masterworking, and we can see what that looks like. So let's see how this all looks when we're fully geared up. You've got 27 points into Sever, giving you some real big damage. Chunky damage. We are getting 15 ranks also into Blight because of the incidentals from the core skills and Masterworking that we got for our Sever. Corpse Explosion doesn't change, neither does Blood Mist. And the biggest thing here is going to be the changes to passives. You're going to have 3 into Necrotic Fortitude, and the big boy here, Titan's Fall, 16 ranks, 13 of them coming from Tempering, 96% damage multiplier. It is big. All of your passives basically from here down are going to have an extra on them, even some that you're not using from your Shroud of False Death. Nothing else is really changing in terms of skills, so this is all just extra that you're going to get in Gloom up to 10 ranks, Terror to 4 ranks. Looking really strong there. That's helping a lot. Also, we get Crippling Darkness to 4, and we are getting our Necrotic Carapace up to 4. Everything else sitting at 4 out of 3. And now the moment you've all been waiting for, we're moving on to the gear itself. Just like last season, we're running the Heir of Perdition. We want everything that it has to offer. It is an extremely valuable piece. As you can see, the affixes on this are helpful to pretty much every build you can think of. In our case, we would like the GA at least on core skills. Crit strike chance is going to vary as far as if you need more for your cap. If you don't, we have a lot of avenues this season for crit strike chance, so it shouldn't be too hard to hit that cap. But if you need it, you may need a multi-GA minimum here, or you're going to lose some damage on that core skill. If you get a 1 GA on core skills and you can triple crit that, you're still looking pretty good in my opinion. If you can get a multi-GA, a 4 GA on this thing, you won the lottery. Congratulations. As far as our chest piece goes, we're still rocking the Shroud of False Death. I believe this thing is going to be best in slot for almost every build in the game. +1 to every passive is more valuable than you can understand. To give you a little bit of perspective, last season, sometimes I would forget when I would jump on my Spiritborn to farm gear and stuff. I would forget to put this on. It would be on my other character, and I would just jump in the pit with no chest piece on and barely be doing anything. Now, granted, there are other stats that would be helpful, but it was really the passives. I couldn't kill anything. I wouldn't die, but I was doing no damage, and I couldn't understand what happened. I'm like, did they nerf something? What's going on? And then I realized it's the Shroud of False Death. You throw that on, and suddenly you're an animal. So it isn't the invisibility, although that's fun and that's nice. It is that +1 to passives that is just really making a lot of builds pop off in ways they haven't been able to before, and I believe that the Twisting Blades Sever build falls in that category. On the GAs here, I have 3 GA marked because I'm trying to emphasize the fact that the 333% damage on your next attack after entering stealth is not that valuable to us because we have so many different attacks going on. If that happens to be a hit from your dot on your Blighted Corpse Explosion that you're just using basically to pump up your Fueled by Death and Flesh Eater, that really is nothing, right? So we don't really care so much about that. If you can just get the GA on max life, you're still looking really good. That would be fine, and I would triple crit that. As far as your gloves go, we're running Aspect of the Damned on the gloves. In the PTR, I had double GA gloves, intelligence, and ranks to sever. Attack speed would be a nice GA if you need that for your cap, which I want to say is 93.5, 93.7, somewhere in there. Look that up if you need to, but that's what you're going to want to hit with the two-handed mace, which we're about to get into. So my advice would be to try to at least get a double GA intelligence and ranks to sever, and then you're going to want to triple crit the ranks to sever on your masterworking. Moving on to the pants, this is probably the biggest surprise, at least to you. We are no longer running Blood Moon Breaches. Now, Blood Moon Breaches, the aspect was changed from overpower damage to critical strike damage. Obviously, for this build, that's not the end of the world. For me, it was more about the affixes that they changed. A lot of them became completely useless, and you lost the max life, which was huge, especially since we're overpowering. And I just didn't like the way that it felt that way. I felt squishy. I didn't like what they did there, so I got a legendary pair of pants. As you can see here in the PTR, I had a 2 GA, intelligence, and max life. I grabbed some armor here and a total armor roll, and I was able to get more corpse tendril size, which is always awesome. And this worked out really well running exploiters. I was able to clear pit 115 with this setup. I could not do it with the breaches on when I tried. So this is going to be the play this season. Again, a lot of this may change as things progress and there's patches and whatnot. So make sure, again, keep your eye on the build guide at all times. Don't take your eye off of it. And favorite it. Just click it. Just favorite the damn thing. Next on the boots, this may change, but as of right now, we are running Greaves of the Empty Tomb. Now, here is where I will mention that last season, if you remember in my pre-patch pep talk video, I was talking about an idea where I thought that the build could push into 110 if we lost Greaves of the Empty Tomb, ran a legendary pair of boots with exploiters, and did the double damage on our sword. That wasn't going to net us 100% double damage chance. It was going to give us 88%. I really just sat there and looked at everything, and I thought that was going to work well. Admittedly, I failed you guys. I didn't put enough work into it. Well, someone did, and he cleared 109, beating my clear by 2 pit levels. I've been running the pit like crazy, 109 current setup, because I no longer have that gear, and I just can't do it. It's driving me crazy. So congratulations to Mel for clearing that. You can check his video out online. I will put the link in the description if you care to see it. That setup did end up clearing 109, and I believe if he really tried and fished, he could clear 110. It looked like he still had time left, looked like he was comfortable and could have done it. So I learned a lesson from that, not to just give up on things, my ideas, when I think something will work. If it just doesn't seem like it's working at first and I'm too lazy to masterwork it, I shouldn't have done that. Really, I let the build down, so I will make sure that that is a lesson learned for this season. Now, on the Greaves of the Empty Tomb, we are running exactly like last season. We are running double GA. We need Sever size and chance for Sever to... it says cast twice on here. It always confuses me. It is double damage. So we need to hit that 2 times on our masterworking to get to, I believe it'll put us at 106 or 108. Obviously, anything over 100 is a waste, but that's what we need to get to that 100. And then the other one into Sever size. Now, if you get multi-GAs, obviously, looking at these, you can see any GA will help, but those are the 2 that you're going to need minimum. I will update the guide to reflect that. I notice that I don't have it in here. Big change on the weapon. So this season, we are not running the 2-handed sword. We are running a 2-handed mace. And the reason is, I usually don't care about implicits. They're just not make or break. But the implicit value on the season, we will see what it looks like when season actually launches in 2 days. But I want to say it was like 300-something%. It was very, very alluring. So I took it. It worked out really well. You get more base damage on the weapon. It just felt really good and worked out very well as far as everything else goes. You're putting Reaping Lotus on here for the 400% multiplier. You would like a GA on Intelligence and Max Life Minimum. Obviously, if you can get the GA on the lucky hit, that's great, but more than likely you're going to find Int Max Life on the weapon and roll the primary resource restoration at the Occultist. For your tempering, you are going with crit strike damage and big boy here. Big boy. We can put ranks into Titan's Fall. This is huge for Pit. Obviously, if you remember, that is more damage to elites when you're fortified, and for us, always pretty much being fortified in the Pit, and elites being our main target in the Pit. This is huge. I also noticed that I haven't mentioned the tempering on the things above us here because a lot of them were uniques, but on the gloves and pants, you can take a look again at the tempering. Sacrificial makes an appearance on the amulet yet again. There's a lot of debate on this. It is, to me, better. I think it is better than running the Damned on the amulet. You can play with it, you can see what you like, but this feels best to me. Sacrificial on my amulet, and I am running GA on Intelligence and a GA on Gloom. This is another situation where obviously it'd be great to run a GA on the ranks into them perfectly balanced, but it's hard to find those. They're like unicorns. So you're better off getting your Int and your Gloom and then, you know, rolling imperfectly balanced. Now, again, here's where I will mention, this may end up being Coalesce Blood. I can't remember which was better. I'm going to have to sit down on launch and take a look at it. So, again, keep an eye on the guide. For now, let's say that that's imperfectly balanced. Crit strike damage I was running and chance to freeze on that as well, which I think I was running on the gloves. And that is helping with terror and also with staggering bosses and so on and so forth. Ring of Starless Skies is back again. Now, in the PTR, I wanted to make sure that I had at least the same thing that I had in Season 6, which was a 4GA, if you remember correctly, and I was able to get that. Here, the main thing that you're going to be looking for is your attack speed cap again, 93.5, 93.7. I'm sorry if I can't remember the 0.2, if that's going to matter. Just keep in mind if it is 93.7, just go for 93.7. How about that? You'll need that GA if you need that extra speed. Crit strike chance, lucky hit chance, all of these things are incredibly valuable. Again, this is one of those pieces where if you can get a 4GA, it is like winning the lottery. On my 30th craft last season, I was finally able to get the 4GA, and it worked out really well for me. So ideally, you're going to want that GA on core skills, and you're going to triple crit the core skills. And then last but not least, we are looking at the ring with the aspect of Grasping Veins. Surprise, surprise, it's back into the build. It was early on last season. I took it out because I wasn't running exploiters, and just having to keep popping these tendrils over and over to keep Grasping Veins up, I find myself making elites unstoppable when I don't want them unstoppable. Just a pain in the ass, so I end up running Great Feast. Now this season, I want them to go unstoppable because exploiters is back on our pants, and I also want to keep spamming tendrils because it is making blood orbs for our blood begets blood, so that we can pick those up and get another 50% damage multiplier. Now that probably sounds like a pain in the ass. As you'll see at the very end of the video, some of the loop footage, it is very easy to do, and it actually just, it flows so well. The gameplay loop on this thing, to me, is incredibly fun. In the pit, a lot of this isn't necessary in the overworld because you don't need all these damage multipliers. You're just mowing through everything with your Sever straight up. Whatever happens, happens. Everybody's dead. So on this, I had double GA in and attack speed. I want to say during the PTR, I was triple critting attack speed on this because I needed to get my attack speed up to cap. Again, that's something that's going to depend on your build and how you lay it out. If you don't need that, then I would probably triple crit intelligence. This is just the way that I was running it in PTR. I have crit strike damage and resource generation on this. Resource generation should actually be lucky hit to restore resource. Sorry about that. I will fix it. It's going to be the same affix that you're running on the sword. It's going to give you a lucky hit chance to restore a certain amount of resource. Between the two of them, this keeps you fed constantly. You never have to worry about resource, especially without Great Feast in the mix. So now we can move down here to our Rune Words. They are the same as last season. For the pit pushing version, we're running Tamwat, and we're running Ahu and Zan. Tamwat, again, this is throwing a Decrepify Curse, which helps you because now that's automated. You don't have to do it. And because Tam is casting the curse onto the enemies, that is making sure that your amplified damage, that all of these things that count on them being cursed or slowed or crowd controlled, that all of that's happening right on the enemy and not around you like Cursed Aura. Even though Cursed Aura spreads, I think this is better. If you like it being around you, you can switch Tam out to Lith and it'll work that way. For Ahu Zan, obviously, if you've been following this build, you know what it's all about. It's about that domino effect. Once somebody starts dying, everybody's dying, and that is awesome. It feels so good to have those overpower hits just boom, 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 and everybody's dead. Body parts flying everywhere. It's amazing. I love it. If you are in the overworld and you don't want to run Ahu and you're just running the endgame build, which I'm not going over here because it's there, you can look at it, a little bit of changes. Ahu is my favorite, but you could run Lith here as well. Obviously, then you couldn't run it on your curse. You'd have to run Tam, but you can run Lith here, and it works well in the overworld. You're still going to get those Zan hits, and the thing a lot of people like about it is that it is predictable. You know when they're going to hit because it's just a cyclical thing with your attacks as you're doing them. Next, we get into the Witchcraft powers. Now, there is one here that is missing. When we get to it, I will share it on the screen so you can see what that looks like. For some reason, it is not on Mobalytics at this time. I will have to note that if it doesn't get fixed by the time the season launches, which is in 2 days. Hopefully they get it in there. Piranado. Pirouette. This thing is amazing. It doesn't just look cool. It isn't just cool because it's a bunch of piranhas spinning around in a tornado. It is about the pulls. And it worked really well for me, especially with the fear thing going on. It was fun to watch them try to run away and get sucked up by a piranha tornado. I like it a lot. We're running it. I was running some other things, but this is the most fun, and it is functional. Next, for our Hex of Whispers, we are running this for one main reason, and you will want this on your bar. Hopefully, this doesn't get changed in the live version. No, nothing in the notes that I saw about this. Hex of Whispers has, after it bounces onto 6 enemies, it bounces back to you and fortifies you for 15% max life and removes all crowd control and negative status effects. And this counts in the pit for the debuffs you get from the echoes. So you can just tank, and as long as you're doing damage and this Hex of Whispers is working, and it does, you'll see it working, all of a sudden the debuffs are going to disappear and you're going to be all set. So it's amazing. I love this thing. It is an extremely valuable and welcome addition to the build. Soul Harvest, you can see here what we're doing. We're getting more primary skill, 3% per monster for 15 seconds, and when this thing is ranked to 9, you do not lose the duration at all, as long as the enemies are alive. Now that's huge in the pit, because if you think about it, we're pulling groups, so 3% per monster, and it doesn't go away till everybody's dead. You can do the math. That works out really well for us. Aura of Siphoning, I will go to first, because this is basically, to me, Andariel's Visage Light. We're getting siphoning from the enemy, we're taking health from them, and we're doing poison damage at the same time. And then our other witch power is just an aura specialization, and you can see what that does there. Now, on the last one here, like I said, this is for some reason not on Mobalytics yet, so little mistake on their part. It is called Force of Will, and what it is doing is giving you a increase in your overpower damage after you kill an enemy, which will help with the trash, and it is giving you a 100% boost to your overpower damage. This is going to be huge, I believe, going to really up the ante on our damage we're doing on our Zan hits. And if you saw in the beginning of the video, and you'll see a little more at the end when I show the gameplay loop, the type of damage numbers I was putting up, like I said, I hit 1.2 trillion on a single cast on a single target. Each individual hit, there were 4 of them on that. Each individual hit was over 300 billion. So that was without Force of Will. So that's going to be even higher once we plug this in. Force of Will was not in the PTR. That's probably why they don't have it on Mobalytics yet. That is something that was in the data mine, I guess. Thanks to Arius and Wowhead for pointing that out to me and making sure that that gets into the game on live. We're popping that in. We removed Abyssal Resonance to get this in, and I think it's actually a good swap. For the gems, again, this will be big this season because of the Witchcraft. So, obviously, Topaz in your armor. Again, make sure you're gearing those rune words so that you're rune wording your weapon and 1 piece of armor, which leaves you 2 pieces of armor to put in for Topaz to give you more intelligence. As far as your jewelry goes, you are running the Witchcraft gems. So we are running Phantom String, which is giving us a 15% multiplier on our overpower damage to hexed enemies. We're hexing the hell out of them, so it's basically just giving us a 15% multiplier. Now, every Witchcraft gem is giving you 160 armor and 8% resistance. That adds up, and you will see as you put the build together how we're hitting those caps through Paragon and these. Friend of the Bog, next. It doesn't matter where you put these, by the way. You can put them anywhere as long as you're running these 3 on your jewelry. Well, you have 3 or more growth and decay witch power slotted. You gain 10% primary stat, 10% max life, huge for us, and you are always unhindered. This feels really good. You're going to like it a lot. Make sure you run that and get these babies as soon as you can. You're going to love them. Last but not least, Dust Stone. For each of your auras and hexes an enemy is afflicted by, they take 2.5% increased damage from you. So, that is it for the Witchcraft and the Witchcraft gems. That is it for the gear. We can take a quick look at the Paragon, but I'm not going to go crazy going through it. Now, I also want to point out here that I don't know what is up, but Mobalytics Paragon boards at this moment don't seem correct. I'm hoping that flushes out when the season launches, so don't screen cap this. Don't go running this. Go with the guide. Hopefully it is fixed by the time the season launches. If not, I will make a note and we will figure out how to deal with that. But I think it will be fixed. I think this happened last season and it was fixed by launch. So the glyphs that you're going to want are the same as last season. Basically, Abyssal, Essence, Dominate, Exploit, and Eliminator. And the boards you're going to run are obviously your starter board. Bloodbath, Frailty. Big change is going to be Blood Begets Blood, takes the place of Scent of Death, and then Flesh Eater. Another thing, again, I want to mention last season, I messed up. I was not updating the guide as often as I should have been, and a lot of changes were made that didn't make it into the guide, but honestly, they were min-max optimizations. It wasn't really hurting the build too much, but it was a little more that you would have gotten. One of the examples I can give you is I was running Essence on Bloodbath, and originally Exploit was there. I realized I can get more decks on the Bloodbath board, so I put Essence over there. I never put that into the guide, and I apologize. I let you down. It won't happen again. Stop it, Mobalytics. Okay, great. There you go. All right, so basically the biggest thing here, the glyphs aren't going to change, the boards aren't going to change. Just don't take this layout as gospel. It may change as far as if these boards weren't set up exactly right. Some of the nodes seem to be in the wrong spot. We'll see what happens when the season launches, and we'll see what these look like. I tried to copy them verbatim from the screenshots from my PTR, so we'll see what this looks like after. One of the main things I want to mention is when you are doing this and you are going through the board, please use your judgment on what you really should go after early and what you should save till later. The biggest thing is getting all of the boards on, getting all of your glyphs plugged in as you have them, and grabbing these legendary nodes and the rare nodes that you need. Some of them you will not need right off the bat. Obviously, anything with max life you're going to want to grab, but here's a good example. This here, I would wait till later in the game to run up here and grab this. So I'd run up to about here. Maybe, was there max life here? Nope, I wouldn't even run up in here right away. I would get up in here, I would get the glyph, and so on and so forth, and work your way through all of this, get the important stuff, and then go down. And one last thing on the Paragon, as you see it sitting right here, is not optimized for plugging in from 0 to whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I have these boards laid out, that it makes it as efficient as possible for you as you're working through them, so that you're grabbing the things you want early and then working your way off the board to the next board, grabbing what you need there early, working yourself off of that board. So the layout may change, the boards will stay the same, and the glyphs will stay the same. Last but not least, we're getting into the mercenaries. Now, there are some changes I made this season to this, and I will explain why. We have Subo again for the radar. He is just a very valuable merc to run. I think everyone should run him. These are the skills that we're using, and you can see here the change that I made is right here. Share a drink. I used to have this over here. I figured a little more damage over time on those corpse explosions, but it's so minimal and stupid. I actually think maybe if all of a sudden healing potions start dropping around, say you're in a boss fight, you're running low, shit, what am I going to do? They're not going to drop more until I hit them on another quarter or whatever. Here you go. Maybe some drop from this, and that'll be helpful. So I put this in. And then as far as your reinforcement goes, we've switched from Variana to right here. If you like Variana, you can go back to that. Again, that's Blood Rage, just on Sever cast or whatever. For right here, we're doing Bastion, and we're having him cast that when we become crowd controlled. What I found is that this helps me a lot when I'm in pit, and you just get hard CC'd into some poison or near an explosion that now you can't get away from. It saved me multiple times, and him taking 90% of the damage when he comes out is just helpful all around. So this is something that you're not going to see him popping up all the time, but he'll be there when you need him. Hopefully you don't get CC'd like that more than once within 30 seconds, because he won't be there and you'll die. Hopefully not. All right, so that is it for the guide. I believe we covered everything. Last thing we will do is I will show you some footage from my 115 pit run. Just a small amount to show you the gameplay loop, explain what I'm doing as far as pit pushing goes, and explain why that doesn't matter at all in the overworld. Alright guys, so here I'm going to show you the gameplay loop, just kind of explain in the pit what we're doing, how it differs from last season. This won't take long, and you guys are out of here. I apologize for keeping you so long. The gameplay loop here mainly changes because of blood begets blood, and you can see those blood orbs all around. You can see the icons above the heads of the elites. So basically what I'm doing is throwing a Blight first. I always throw that in so that I can make sure that, one, I'm getting the attention of enemies that I want to pull. You'll find that Blight is almost like a heat-seeking missile. Although it doesn't seek out the enemies, it does go very far in the direction that you shoot it. It will get their attention, and most of the time they will come to you. So I'm doing that, and then again, here you can see just how that's working with the blood orbs. I'll wait for the next group to explain how I start the group, but you can see how it finishes here really strong, and you can see that Piranado just looking so cool. So as you can see, I run up on the enemies, Blight first, start swinging, corpses are dropping because of our 3 into hued flesh, and then we have our lucky hit chance really high, and once those corpses are down, I'm making sure that I'm weaving in some quick hits on the corpse explosion so that I can keep Fueled by Death and Flesh Eater going, and then in between my Sever casts, I am spamming the hell out of those corpse tendrils. I want those icons that you can see, the broken chains there, unstoppable, above the elites' heads at the very minimum. I want as many of them unstoppable as possible, and then I want to make sure that I'm grabbing those blood orbs. Now you can see that there are an awful lot of blood orbs, so it's very easy to get them. And then what you'll also notice is very periodically I run into blood mist, swing around, grab a bunch, come out of blood mist. We're getting the multiplier from that now, and then doing more damage. I probably should be doing the blood mist more often than I am, but as you can see here, this is a 115. I'm decimating these enemies, and it seems to be working pretty well. I'm sure the muscle memory will get better as the season goes on, but this was just a 1 week PTR run, and I think I did pretty well here. So that is the gameplay loop, and here's why it doesn't matter in the overworld. We're doing so much damage that you can run through anything the overworld's going to throw at you, and none of these buffs mean anything. It's fun if you grab them, it's fun if you pull, it's fun if you blight, but you don't need to do any of this when you're running around the overworld. Keep in mind, we are in Pit 115. These enemies are extremely powerful. We need to be doing everything we can to get as much damage as possible. If you were running in the overworld, you're basically going to one-shot everything in a Helltide. You're going to one-shot in Hordes. You're probably one-shotting the bosses in Hordes. I'm sure you saw the footage in the beginning of this. You can see I wasn't really going crazy setting them up with my buffs. All I was doing was just kind of killing them, and they died pretty quickly. So, again, that's going to apply to the endgame version and also the pit-pushing version when it's running around the overworld. Last few things I'll mention as we just ride out on this footage is, first, on the endgame version, which will be on the Mobalytics guide, there will be a tab for that. I am setting it up so you will not eat any mythics, and you don't have to worry about min-maxing so much. If you're interested in min-maxing, if you're interested in you got mythics, then go with the pit-pushing build. I just don't want anyone to think that by me calling it the pit-pushing maniac build, that it lacks in any other content. This build will do everything in the game, and it will do it well, including Citadel. I was a very valuable teammate to my friends last season, and this season even more so. I think it is stronger, obviously. So last thing that I want to mention is I got a decent amount of support from you guys last season. I really do appreciate it. I'm new to this, new to content creation, new to making my own builds and putting them out to people. On the content creation side, hopefully you've noticed a little bit better production value here. I'm trying to make better content, trying to make it look better, trying to make it more entertaining. I do appreciate the comments, I do appreciate the likes, and I do appreciate the subscriptions. I know that's a YouTube thing to say, but it definitely helps my visibility. It helps get the build out there. It helps get me out there, and I really do appreciate it, because at the end of the day, if I could just make a little bit of money on this, then I can just tell my wife, I have to play this game. I'm making money. You see? Help me. In all seriousness, I do appreciate it. Thank you guys. It's great. And hopefully a lot more good content to come this season. And with the introduction of the armory, I am hoping that I will be able to get more than one build in. The last thing that I want to mention is, obviously, my pit clear was beaten, and I'm a little bit somber about it, but at the same time, when he announced that he had done it, he credited me and mentioned me, and I really do appreciate that. He called me the OG Sever expert. That's not me, that's Arius. I am but a student of his, and it's really cool from a content creator perspective to have someone push something based on your build and do better than you. From the pit pusher in me, it sucks to get beat, but it is my own fault. Admittedly, I put this game down for a few weeks. I just got burned out on it and bored with it. I thought there was nothing left to do. I will not make that mistake again. If I can play a game, it'll be this game, and I will invest my time in trying to make the build better for me as a pit pusher and for you as a content creator, so that the build is better for the people who are taking the time to run it. So again, I appreciate all you guys. I hope that you enjoy Season 7. Keep your eye on the channel. Subscribe if you haven't. Keep your eye on that build guide, and we'll catch you next time in the next video. Hopefully a pit 150 clear. I'm only kidding. See you later.